She screamed, "Get off this driveway right now!" and shoved my wife so hard she dropped the groceries right in front of our kid. I didn't shout. I didn't run. I just stood there while two HOA enforcers blocked our gate, and one of them whispered, "Call it in." My wife's hand was shaking, not from fear, but from anger. She asked calmly, "Are you really doing this?" Karen smirked and held up a paper like it was law. She said our house was seized, our car was illegal, and we had 10 minutes to leave. Then the tow truck rolled in like this was planned all along. Our son grabbed my leg and said, "Dad, are they taking our house?" That's when Karen leaned close to my wife's face and said the line that changed everything. "Touch me again and I'll have you arrested." I looked at my wife. She nodded once, slow. I pulled out my phone, not to record them, but to send a message I hoped I'd never need again. Because the truth was simple. They thought we were weak, trapped, and alone. And they had no idea who they had. Just put their hands on the tow truck hooked our car. Like it was trash, metal scraped. Karen crossed her arms and said, "HOA rules don't care about feelings." One of the enforcers laughed and told my wife to step back before things got worse. She did step back, but only one step. Then she whispered to me, "They're making a big mistake." Karen called someone and said loud enough for us to hear, "Yes, he's aggressive. Might be armed." That lie hit hard. Our kids started crying. A neighbor pulled out a phone. But Karen snapped, "Stop recording. This is HOA business." The enforcer moved closer to my wife again, finger in her face this time. I saw his hand twitch toward his belt like he wanted to play cop. I finally spoke, slow and calm. "You need to leave." "Right now?" Karen laughed. "Or what?" she said. Right then my phone buzzed once. Just one vibration. I looked at the screen and slipped it back into my pocket. The gate camera light turned red. Recording had started. And far away, sirens answered a call Karen didn't make. The viral line of that moment stayed in my head. The loudest people never know when they're already done. Karen's smile faded when she heard the sirens. She waved her hand fast and said, "Relax. That's not for you." But the enforcer stepped back anyway. Another neighbor came out, quiet, watching everything. Karen snapped at him too, like she owned the street. Then the tow truck driver froze. His radio crackled and he looked confused. "They're asking for the property number," he said. Karen rushed over and hissed, "Just tow it." My wife bent down to our kid and wiped his tears. Her voice stayed soft, but her eyes were sharp. "Go stand by the door, Kay?" The enforcer suddenly grabbed her arm and said she was interfering. That was the moment. I stepped between them, slow, hands open. "Do not touch her!" Karen shouted, "He threatened us!" and pointed at me like a judge. One of the enforcers pulled out cuffs. Neighbors started murmuring. Phones came out again. Karen tried to block the cameras, yelling about privacy. Then the first real police car turned the corner. Karen smiled again, confident, proud. She walked toward it like a hero waiting for praise. She had no idea the call they were responding to wasn't hers, and she definitely didn't know my message had already reached the wrong people for her. The police car stopped hard. The officer stepped out and didn't look at Karen first. He looked at the house, then at me. Karen rushed in front of him, talking fast, pointing at us, saying words like threat, illegal, and non-compliant. She handed him the HOA paper like it was gold. The officer read it once, then looked up and asked one question. "Who put hands on who?" Karen opened her mouth, then stopped. My wife rolled up her sleeve without a word. The red mark on her arm was clear. The officer's face changed. Another patrol car pulled in, then another. Karen's voice cracked as she said, "This is private HOA property." The officer shook his head. "No, ma'am. This is private land." One enforcer tried to slip away, but another officer stopped him. Neighbors were silent now. My phone buzzed again. A message came through, en route. "Do not engage." Karen laughed, nervous. "You can't scare me with uniforms," she said. I finally spoke again, calm as ever. "I'm not." Behind the patrol cars, a black SUV turned onto the street. And everything Karen thought she controlled started to fall apart. The black SUV didn't rush. It rolled in slow like it had all the time in the world. Karen watched it confused, then turned back to the cops and said, "That's not part of this." The SUV stopped. Two people stepped out. One man, one woman. Both calm, both sharp. The woman showed a badge I hadn't seen in years. The officer nearest me straightened up right away. Karen's voice went higher. "Why are there so many of you? This is just an HOA issue." The woman asked Karen a simple question. "Are you the one who ordered a vehicle tow and physical removal?" Karen smiled again and said, "Yes, under my authority." That word, authority. The man from the SUV looked at me then, just for a second, and nodded. Karen didn't notice. She was busy talking, digging deeper. Saying my wife attacked first, saying we were lying, saying she could prove it. The woman held up a hand. "We already have the footage." Karen froze. The gate camera light blinked again. One neighbor quietly said, "Oh, man." Karen backed up a step and laughed weak. "You people don't know who I am." I finally said the line. "I'd been holding in since the shove." "You're right. But you're about to find out who we are." Karen's face went pale, then red. "That camera is illegal," she snapped. The woman from the SUV didn't argue. She just said, "It's been approved for years." One of the officers pulled up. Footage on his screen. No sound, just clear video. The shove, the grab. Karen standing back, smiling. The street felt tight, like no one was breathing. The enforcer with the cuffs started talking fast, saying he was just following orders. The officer stopped him mid-sentence. "Hands behind your back," Karen shouted. "You can't do this to me." The woman turned to her, calm but cold. "You impersonated authority. You filed a false report. And you ordered an assault." Karen tried to point at me again. "He's dangerous." I finally looked her straight in the eyes and said, "I haven't even started yet." The man from the SUV stepped forward and asked me quietly, "You want to say it? Or should I?" I shook my head. "Not yet." Karen laughed, shaky, trying to save herself. "This isn't over." I leaned closer, just enough for her to hear. "It ended the second you touched my wife." The officer read her rights while Karen kept shaking her head like this was a bad dream. Neighbors whispered. One of them said, "She said she owned this place." The woman from the SUV asked me to step forward. Her voice was calm, almost respectful. "Sir, for the record, can you confirm who owns this property?" I handed over one paper, just one. The officer read the name and looked up fast. He looked at me again, this time different. Karen stopped breathing for a second. "That's fake," she said. The woman shook her head. "Federal verified." Karen's knees went weak. She tried to grab the officer's arm and cried, "They tricked me!" The man from the SUV spoke then, clear and loud enough for everyone. "You assaulted the spouse of a retired Navy SEAL." Silence hit the street. My wife squeezed my hand. I didn't smile. I didn't brag. I just looked at Karen and said the line that stuck with everyone watching. "I learned patience in places where people don't come back." The cuffs clicked. The tow truck unhooked our car, and for the first time since this started, my son stopped crying. Karen was led past the same neighbors she used to threaten. No one said a word. No phones now, just eyes. The enforcers sat on the curb, heads down, waiting their turn. The officer asked my wife if she wanted medical help. She said no and hugged our kid instead. The woman from the SUV shook my hand once and said, "You did everything right." The police cleared the street. The gate closed again. Quiet came back like nothing ever happened. That night, I stood on the porch with my family and watched the sun go down on land I earned. Paid for and protected. I didn't feel angry anymore, just steady, safe, free. My wife leaned on my shoulder and whispered, "They picked the wrong house." I looked at the flag by the door, moving slow in the wind, and said the last line that mattered. I didn't serve this country to lose my home to a bully. Karen and her HOA. Enforcers shoved my wife and threatened our family, thinking we were weak. Our car was hooked, our home seized, and our son terrified. But they didn't know. I'm a retired Navy SEAL. I stayed calm as sirens answered a call Karen didn't make. The police and federal agents arrived. The shove was caught on camera, and Karen's fake authority crumbled before her eyes. She was arrested for assault and impersonating law enforcement. A few days later, she tried one last Move, sending a USB with her. Schemes, but it only exposed her further. The FBI flagged her. Our family was safe. Our land remained ours. Standing on the porch with my wife and kid, I said, I didn't serve this country to lose my home to a bully. Justice was served, and freedom won.